Welcome back to the channel, or hi if you're new here. I'm Elise, and today we're going to be learning how to crochet this super easy beanie. This is a very beginner-friendly project, and in my opinion, this is one of the best things to start with if you're new to crochet. This is also an updated version of my original beanie tutorial. All you're going to need to get started is some worsted weight for acrylic yarn, a 5mm hook, a pair of scissors, and a tapestry needle, and you are all ready to get started. To get started on our beanie, we need to make a slip knot. To make a slip knot, we're going to wrap the yarn around two of our fingers in a cross. Pinch the yarn tail with our thumb, and then taking the pointer finger on our opposite hand, we're going to place that under the first strand of yarn and over the second. Then I'm going to flip that second strand of yarn up and pull it tight. Let's do that one more time. I'm wrapping the yarn around two of my fingers in a cross, pinching that yarn tail with my thumb, and taking my pointer finger on my right hand, I'm putting that under that first strand of yarn and over the second. Then I'm going to flip that second strand of yarn up and pull it tight to make my slip knot. Now we can go ahead and put our hook into our slip knot and pull that down tight and get started on our chain. To make our chain, we're going to yarn over and pull that directly through the loop on our hook to make one chain. Again, yarn over and pull that directly through the loop on our hook. And I'm going to continue making chains until I have 47 chains in total. Okay, I've got my 47 chains here, and your chain is going to determine the height of your hat. So if you'd like to change this, go ahead and do that before we move on to the next step. You can see that I have enough chains for my hat to fit comfortably, as well as for me to flip up the brim. So if you'd like a slouchier hat, for example, you can add more chains. Or if you want less of a brim on your hat, you can make less chains. This is totally up to you. But I have made 47 chains, and now I'm going to get started on row 1. For row 1, we're going to work 1 half double crochet into each one of our chains for the entire row, starting in the second chain from the hook. So this one here is our first chain from the hook, and right here is our second chain from the hook. So we want to place our very first half double crochet into this stitch. To make a half double crochet, we're going to yarn over, insert the hook into that second chain, yarn over and pull up a loop so that we have 3 loops on the hook, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops to make our very first half double crochet. Again, yarn over, insert your hook into that next chain, yarn over and pull up a loop so that you have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops on the hook to make your next half double crochet. So we're going to continue making 1 half double crochet into each one of our chains for the entire row until we get to our very last chain. And if you started with 47 chains like I did, you should end up with 46 half double crochets in total. We have 1 less stitch than we had chains because we started in that second chain from the hook. Okay, I'm to my very last chain here. And I am finishing, like I said, with 46 half double crochets in total for row 1. If your work is curling up a little bit like this, don't worry about it. That is totally normal, and it will flatten out as we add more rows. Okay, let's go ahead and get started on row 2. Now before every single row, we're going to chain 1 by yarning over, and then we're going to turn our work over so we can work back down in the opposite direction to start the next row. For row 2, we're going to place 1 half double crochet into each one of our stitches in the back loop only for the entire row until we reach the end. So you can see at the top of our work now we have these 2 V's. And instead of working into the entire stitch like this, we want to work into the back loop only, which is going to be right here. So we would insert our hook into that back loop just like that before making our half double crochet. So we're always going to skip over this chain that we made, and start the new row into this very first stitch. So let's make our half double crochet again by yarning over. We're going to insert the hook into that back loop only of that very first stitch. I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops on the hook. Again, I'm going into that next stitch into the back loop only and making my next half double crochet. So I'm going to repeat that all the way down until I reach the end of my row. You should end every single row with the exact same number of stitches that you had in the previous row. You should not be gaining or losing any stitches. So for example, I have 46 half double crochets in row 1. So I should end with 46 half double crochets in every single row going forward. Okay, I've made it to the end of row 2 here, and I'm making my very last half double crochet. And it is really easy to miss this last stitch here for any of your rows, so make sure you do not miss this very last stitch at the end. A lot of the times people say that their work keeps getting smaller and they don't know why, and it is usually because they're missing this very last stitch. And we can go ahead and get started on row 3. Again, before every single row, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work so that we can start working back down in the opposite direction. Row 3 is going to be exactly the same as row 2. We're going to skip this chain that we made and make 1 half double crochet into the back loop only of every single stitch until the end of the row. I'm at the end of row 3, and I'm going to get started on row 4 again by chaining 1 and turning my work so that I can work back down in the opposite direction. And this is what your work should be looking like so far. Now row 4 onward is going to be exactly the same as row 3 and row 2. We're just going to repeat the exact same thing, making 1 half double crochet into the back loop only for the entire row, then chaining 1, flipping our work, and starting on the next row. So this is where you're going to control the size of your hat. More rows will make your hat larger and less rows will make your hat smaller. You just want your number of rows to fit comfortably around your head. And I'm going to be making 44 rows in total. So go ahead and keep working until you have the amount of rows that you need. And I will meet you back here so we can start sewing our hat together. Okay, so I've finished all my rows here and I ended up doing 44 rows in total. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to fold this in half. And we're going to slip stitch along the first and last row that we made to connect this edge together. Okay, so I have the last row that I made facing me. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my hook into the back loop of that last stitch that we made in the last row. And then I'm putting my hook also into that first chain on the other side. And I'm going to yarn over and pull through all of those loops on my hook to make a slip stitch. Okay, and I'm going into the next stitch, into that back loop, and then into this next loop on the other side. This is the original chain that we made. So there's only one loop there that we can work into. And making another slip stitch. Okay, so I'm going to keep doing that all the way down until I get to the end of the row. Okay, I'm at the end of the row now, and you can see that I have attached these two edges together. And I went ahead and cut my yarn, leaving a little bit of a yarn tail here. So I'm going to chain 1 and pull that up through the chain that I made and pull it tight. And now we're going to go ahead and attach our tapestry needle to this long yarn tail that we left. And we're going to use this to cinch up the top of our hat. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our tapestry needle and we're going to weave it along this top edge every 2 to 3 stitches, just like this. It doesn't have to be perfect, you just want it to be somewhat even. And I'm just going to do that all the way around this top edge until I get back to where I started. Okay, so I'm back to the beginning, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull on this yarn tail to go ahead and cinch that up. I'm going to have to pull pretty hard on it. Okay, so you can see that there's still a little bit of a hole here at the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tapestry needle still connected to that yarn tail, and I'm going to sew across this hole a couple of times to go ahead and close it up. You can just sew across until you're happy with the way it looks. It's going to be at the top of the hat, so you're not going to see it that much. But we do want to go ahead and close that hole up as much as we can. Okay, so I think I'm happy with that. I'm going to go ahead and cut my yarn. And I have this yarn tail left at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and tie these two yarn tails together to go ahead and secure them in a knot. And I'm just going to trim them a little bit. And what I'm going to do to weave these in is I'm going to take my hook and I'm going to put it up through the bottom of my hat. And then find a place to pull those yarn tails down into the bottom of my hat. Just like that. Okay, if you have any yarn tails left on your hat, you might have some along this bottom edge. Go ahead and weave those in. And otherwise, you are all done with your hat. You can go ahead and flip up the brim. And it is ready to wear. I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. Go ahead and subscribe if you're not already. We're trying to hit 100,000 crocheters here on the channel. And I will see you guys in the next video.